My sister-in-law confessed to my husband that he's the love of her life. My sister-in-law confessed to my husband that he's the love of her life. My husband Tom and I have been married for 8 years, and I genuinely thought I knew everything about him, our family, and our relationships. We're close-knit with both our families, and one of our closest bonds is with my brother Jake and his wife Lisa. The four of us often spend time together. Lisa and Tom have always had a friendly relationship, often joking and teasing each other, just as Jake and I do. Nothing in their interactions seemed unusual or flirty, at least not until recently. Lisa has always been a bit eccentric. She has a strong personality, which sometimes means that she oversteps, but we're used to that. She's also competitive and loves to play little mind games, but the idea that she might develop feelings for Tom never crossed my mind. They'd always seemed more like siblings, and she's been with Jake for over a decade. They have 2 young kids, and we've all shared countless family vacations, holiday gatherings, and weekend barbecues. Things started to get strange last month when Lisa began texting Tom frequently. Now, this wasn't entirely out of the ordinary. She often messaged him for random things like gift ideas for Jake or to coordinate family events. But the messages started coming in late at night, and they had a different tone, more personal, more flirty, and often unnecessary. Tom showed me some of these texts, as we've always had an open phone policy, and we even laughed about how Lisa was acting a little weird. We figured maybe she was just going through a rough patch with Jake and wanted attention, but then Lisa took things to another level. One evening, out of the blue, Lisa texted Tom and asked if he could meet her for lunch. She told him she really needed to talk to him about something personal. Tom, assuming it had to do with Jake or some family matter, mentioned it to me. I suggested he go, since she might want advice from a man's perspective, and it could be something private. So Tom agreed, albeit reluctantly. The next day, Tom met Lisa at a quiet cafe near her office. Lisa wasted no time getting to the point. She confessed to Tom that she's deeply in love with him, that she had been from the moment they met. She told him she'd been waiting for years to express these feelings, and said she couldn't hold back any longer. She talked about how beautiful he was, how she felt a special connection with him, and even tried to convince him that they would be perfect together. Lisa went so far as to tell Tom that she believed he felt the same way. She said she could see it in his eyes every time they were together, claiming that their connection was undeniable and mutual. Tom was stunned and didn't know how to respond at first. He cut her off and told her she was completely mistaken, that he loved me and wasn't interested. He left the cafe, called me immediately, and told me everything. While on the phone with me, Lisa started texting him non-stop, apologizing profusely, claiming it was just infatuation and begging him not to tell Jake. She sounded panicked, switching between saying she didn't mean it and then backtracking, saying it was something that would pass. When Tom got home, we sat down and went through all the messages together. I felt a range of emotions: shock, disbelief, anger, but above all, I was sad. Sad for Jake, for Lisa's kids, and for the damage that I knew this would cause. This wasn't something we could brush under the rug, but it also wasn't something I could easily bring myself to expose, given the effect it would have on my brother's family. That night, things took an unexpected turn. Jake called me out of the blue, sounding upset. He said Lisa had told him Tom was the one who tried to start an affair with her. Apparently, she told Jake that Tom confessed to having feelings for her at lunch and tried to convince her to run away with him. She painted herself as the victim, saying she'd been trying to fend off his advances out of loyalty to her marriage and their family. When I told Tom, we were both livid. We decided to go over to Jake and Lisa's place immediately to confront her. My parents came over to watch our kids, and Tom and I headed to Jake's house. When we arrived, Lisa looked rattled, like she wasn't expecting us to show up. Jake was out on the porch, and as soon as we got there, we told him everything. About the lunch, Lisa's confession, and the texts. I showed him the messages, voicemails, and even the panicked texts Lisa had sent Tom afterward. Jake was devastated, and you could see the shock settling over him. Lisa tried to spin her story, claiming it was all misunderstood feelings and that she just didn't know how to handle her emotions. But Jake was done listening. He told her to pack a bag and go to her sister's house. Lisa burst into tears, saying it was just a one-time confession and that she hadn't thought things through. But Jake wouldn't have it, and neither would I. It felt surreal, like some kind of twisted nightmare. After Lisa left, Jake started asking Tom and me if we'd ever noticed anything that would explain why Lisa thought Tom was interested in her. Tom was at a loss, but then he remembered a moment that might have given Lisa the wrong impression. Recently, at a family gathering, Tom and Lisa had playfully jostled at the fridge. She'd reached for something, and he'd jokingly reached around her to grab a drink, and they both laughed. It had been innocent, but now, in hindsight, it looked like she'd read way too much into that simple interaction. Feeling unsettled, Jake began combing through Lisa's things, looking for any clues about what was going on in her mind. On her laptop, he discovered folders full of pictures of Tom, photos she'd secretly taken at family events, vacations, and random gatherings. Some were zoomed in on him, some were from our Caribbean trip where Tom had worn a tank top. She'd even taken pictures of him while he wasn't looking. Seeing these photos was beyond disturbing. It felt invasive, creepy, and obsessive. Jake was livid. He called Lisa and confronted her over the phone, demanding to know what had possessed her to go to such lengths. Lisa just cried, saying she didn't know, that she was confused and couldn't help it. Jake told her that he was done, that he couldn't trust her anymore, and that their marriage was over. He called a lawyer the next morning. Update 1. Over the next few weeks, Jake moved forward with the divorce. He documented everything, the messages, voicemails, photos, and emails Lisa sent Tom afterward. Her obsession with Tom was undeniable, and her attempts to spin the story only dug her deeper. Jake's lawyer advised him to gather as much evidence as possible to strengthen his case for custody, and Lisa made it easy by sending long, emotional emails to Tom. In one, she even tried to rekindle their special connection and apologized for the misunderstood feelings. Jake was crushed but resolute. He wanted custody of the kids and asked the lawyer to include all the evidence. Lisa seemed to realize her position was weak and barely fought back in the mediation sessions. In the end, Jake was awarded primary custody with supervised visits for Lisa. Seeing my brother go through this was heartbreaking, but he was determined to stay strong for his kids. Update 2. Even with the divorce moving forward, Lisa couldn't seem to let go. She began sending Tom more messages, shifting between apologies and attempts to reignite her obsession. She emailed him, saying she missed their connection and felt he was the only one who truly understood her. Tom blocked every account she contacted him from, and we forwarded all of it to Jake's lawyer. Eventually, Jake added a restraining order to the divorce proceedings to prevent Lisa from contacting us. This whole ordeal has made me realize just how twisted her obsession had become. It wasn't just a one-time lapse in judgment. It was years of hidden feelings, invasive photos, and a complete disregard for her marriage. The restraining order helped, and finally, Lisa started respecting the boundaries. Update 3. Months have passed since the divorce was finalized. Jake has primary custody, and he's currently focusing on rebuilding his life for his kids. He's been seeing a therapist, which has helped him. He is making good progress with that, and he's working on regaining his confidence and trust. Tom and I have been there every step of the way, and it's been healing for all of us to support each other through this nightmare. Tom and I have come out of this ordeal stronger. We've always valued honesty and transparency, and this experience reinforced how essential those things are in a marriage. Watching Jake find his own strength has been inspiring, and he's starting to rediscover happiness. He's even found new hobbies and interests that bring him joy outside of this family drama. Lisa has finally respected the boundaries we set. The restraining order stands, and she's no longer contacting Tom. I still can't wrap my head around her obsession, but it's clear that we're better off moving forward without her in our lives. Our family is healing, slowly but surely, and the future feels brighter every day. Thank you to everyone who offered support and encouragement. It helped more than you know. Here's to fresh starts and new beginnings for all of us. Update 4. It's been a month since Jake filed for divorce, and things have only gotten messier. Despite agreeing to the divorce initially, Lisa has started a campaign of emotional manipulation, aimed at both Tom and Jake. It's like she's flipping back and forth, hoping one of them will crack. She sent Jake a long letter last week, claiming she never really meant it with Tom, and that the confession was a mistake she made in a moment of weakness. She begged him to forgive her, claiming she still loved him and that she'd do anything to make things right. Then, in a move that completely blindsided us, Lisa texted Tom again, asking him to meet her one last time so she could apologize in person. She wrote that she needed closure and even hinted that she'd been seeing a therapist who recommended final conversations to help her heal. We blocked her number, and Tom didn't respond, but it's clear she hasn't accepted any of this. I shared this with Jake, who was frustrated, and said it just solidified his decision to move forward with the divorce. Jake's been a rock through all this, but even he's feeling the weight of her constant games. Our family has started to catch on too. My mom reached out after noticing the tension and asked what was going on. We gave her the full story, and she was shocked but supportive, saying that if Lisa couldn't respect boundaries, she had no place in the family. This extra support has been a huge relief, but Lisa's behavior continues to keep everyone on edge. Update 5. This woman doesn't know when to quit. Just when we thought things couldn't get worse, Lisa decided to escalate her games by attempting to ruin Tom's reputation. A few days ago, she started telling mutual friends and family that Tom had been leading her on all along. She claimed that he'd sent her mixed signals and that she was simply responding to the attention she thought he was giving her. She's painting herself as a confused, heartbroken woman who fell for a man who was supposedly showing her affection. This lie has caused a bit of chaos within the family. While Jake, my parents, and those closest to us know the truth, a few extended family members reached out, asking us what was going on. Lisa has tried to spin the story to make it look like she was seduced, which is not only untrue but entirely ridiculous. Tom was furious, and we quickly shared all the evidence we had with the family members who needed clarification. Once they saw the messages and emails Lisa had sent, her story unraveled. But this latest move on Lisa's part has been exhausting. It feels like we're constantly defending ourselves and putting out fires. She's tarnished her own reputation more than anything, but I hate seeing how hurt Jake is, and Tom is furious that Lisa's obsession has now crossed over into actively trying to damage his good name. Update 6. This past weekend, things reached a new level of insanity when Lisa showed up uninvited to my mom's birthday dinner. We hadn't seen her in person since the confrontation at Jake's house, so her arrival was a shock to everyone. She walked in like she belonged there, immediately starting to cry and apologizing loudly, which drew everyone's attention. She even tried to hug Jake, begging him for one more chance to make things right. Jake was completely blindsided and told her she needed to leave. Tom and I stayed by his side, and the rest of the family rallied around him, making it clear to Lisa that she was no longer welcome. But Lisa refused to leave. She tried talking to Tom, repeating her line about needing closure, which made him visibly uncomfortable. Eventually, my dad and uncle escorted her out of the house, but she made a scene, yelling about how she just wanted her family back and that everyone was abandoning her. The whole episode left us shaken. My mom was upset that her birthday dinner was disrupted, and Jake looked crushed all over again. Lisa's refusal to respect boundaries is frightening, and it's made us worry about what she might try next. We're considering legal options to ensure she can't keep showing up unannounced, but it's been emotionally draining for everyone. Update 7. As if things weren't already crazy enough, Lisa decided to go nuclear. She somehow managed to contact Tom's workplace and left a long voicemail for his boss, insinuating that Tom had been involved in an inappropriate relationship with her. She hinted that he was untrustworthy and implied he might be unprofessional in other aspects of his work. Tom's boss called him in for a meeting, and thankfully, Tom had all the evidence on his side. He showed his boss the text messages, emails, and evidence that Lisa had been harassing him for months. Luckily, his boss was understanding and reassured Tom that his position was secure, but the fact that Lisa was willing to go this far just to get a reaction from him was both infuriating and terrifying. We're now seriously considering taking out a restraining order against her, as this has gone from a personal vendetta to an outright attack on our lives. This situation has also made us reevaluate how much access she has to our lives. We're taking steps to make sure she has no way of contacting us or knowing anything about our whereabouts. But her willingness to cross professional boundaries shows just how relentless she is. Tom has been shaken up, but we're both committed to moving forward and protecting ourselves. Update 8. After Lisa's attempt to sabotage Tom's job, we decided enough was enough. Jake, Tom, and I went to court to file for restraining orders. We presented all the evidence, including her messages, her attempts to contact Tom's boss, her unannounced visit to my mom's house, and her erratic behavior at family gatherings. The judge granted a restraining order, barring her from contacting any of us directly or indirectly. Jake also updated his divorce proceedings to include this new evidence, which should help him get full custody of their kids. Now, with legal boundaries in place, we finally feel a sense of peace. It's been a relief to know that if Lisa tries anything more, there will be immediate consequences. Jake has primary custody of their kids, and they're adjusting to the new normal. He's putting the pieces of his life back together, and has even joined a support group for people who've dealt with betrayal and manipulation in relationships. It's helped him cope with the shock, and I can see him becoming stronger every day. As for Tom and me, we've taken this experience to heart. We're grateful for the support of our family and friends who saw through Lisa's manipulations. We've come out of this ordeal closer and more resilient. Tom's workplace was incredibly supportive, and he's no longer worried about Lisa's attempts to meddle in his professional life. Our family gatherings feel more comfortable now that Lisa isn't part of them, and there's a sense of unity among us that wasn't there before. This whole experience has shown us who truly has our backs. It's also deepened our bond with Jake, who's truly an inspiration in how he's handling this nightmare with resilience and grace. Thank you to everyone who shared their support, advice, and words of encouragement. It's helped us more than you know, and we're finally ready to put this chapter behind us. We're moving forward, one day at a time, and for the first time in months, life feels peaceful again. Update 9. Just when we thought we'd turned a corner, Lisa struck again. Last week, she sent flowers and a letter to Tom's office, trying to circumvent the restraining order by using a third-party delivery service. The letter was full of apologies, but it quickly veered into the familiar, unsettling territory. She wrote about their connection, how she felt he was the one that got away, and that circumstances had ruined what could have been a perfect life together. She even mentioned the court proceedings, saying that she felt punished and abandoned by the people she loved the most. Tom immediately contacted his attorney, who advised him to notify the authorities. This violation triggered a warning from the court, making it clear that any further attempts to contact us would have serious legal consequences. It was disturbing to see just how far Lisa was willing to go to cling to this fantasy she'd built up in her mind. Jake, seeing how shaken Tom was, stepped in and offered even more support. He reminded us that Lisa's behavior was beyond reason now, and that it was clear she was no longer thinking rationally. To protect ourselves, we've increased security around our home, and Tom's employer has been alerted as well. Jake has been incredible through this ordeal, stepping up as the protective brother and friend we both needed. We've also decided to install cameras around our property, just in case. It's unsettling, but having these measures in place has made us feel a bit safer. Update 10. Just when we thought things were under control, Lisa resurfaced in the most dramatic way yet. My cousin got married last weekend, and most of the family attended the wedding. Jake and Lisa's children were there with Jake, but Lisa had not been invited due to the restraining order and her recent behavior. However, during the reception, Lisa showed up unannounced, wearing a bright red dress and acting as though she was a guest. She walked in, ignoring the whispers and stares, and made a beeline for Tom and me. She began loudly apologizing, trying to draw attention from everyone around. She started pleading with me to forgive her, and went on about how she felt trapped by her emotions, and that it was all just a misunderstanding. The entire room fell silent, with everyone watching this bizarre scene unfold. Jake immediately intervened, escorting Lisa away from the crowd. She tried to resist, making a scene by sobbing and pleading with him to give her a second chance. Security was eventually called, and they escorted Lisa out of the venue. The disruption cast a shadow over the evening, but thankfully, my cousin was understanding and supportive, knowing the difficulties our family has been facing with Lisa. This latest incident solidified for everyone just how erratic Lisa has become. My entire family now knows the full story, and no one is willing to tolerate her behavior any longer. Jake spoke to his lawyer about adding this latest incident to the custody case, and it's likely to help him secure sole custody. I feel terrible for my niece and nephew, who have no choice but to see their mother's breakdowns. It's heartbreaking, but it's clear Lisa needs serious help, and we can only hope that she eventually gets it. Final update. With Lisa's last public incident, we all decided to take steps to ensure we'd finally be free of her presence. Jake's attorney filed an amendment to the custody case, citing her continuous violations of boundaries and the restraining order. Within a few weeks, Jake was granted sole custody of the children, with Lisa's visitation rights reduced to supervised therapeutic settings only. The judge's ruling was a huge relief for everyone involved, especially Jake, who now has more control over his family's peace and stability. Since then, there has been silence from Lisa. Her legal team informed Jake's lawyer that she's checked herself into a treatment facility for mental health support, which honestly feels like the best possible outcome. We've all agreed that we'll give her the space to work on herself without interference. It feels like a weight has been lifted off our shoulders, and finally, there's a sense of calm settling over all of us. Jake has been focusing on healing and rebuilding his life with his kids. He's been spending quality time with them, and they're slowly adapting to the changes. Tom and I are also finding our own peace again. This experience has strengthened our marriage and deepened our relationship with my family. We've leaned on each other and come out stronger for it, with a renewed sense of gratitude for the stability we share. We're taking things one day at a time, moving forward and embracing the calm that's finally settled around us. The family is more united than ever, and we're all supporting each other through this final chapter. Thank you again to everyone who shared their thoughts, advice, and words of support. It truly made a difference. Here's to new beginnings, healing, and hopefully some well-deserved peace and quiet.